Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy, your regular host, and today I'm going to be taking you on a very beautiful local dish. I'm going to be showing you how to do something really interesting with some pork. I'm also going to be doing something really interesting with some berries and some yogurt and some ice cream, and we're just going to patch up this whole dish into something you all are just going to enjoy, and you're all going to be willing to try this at home. So without further ado, I'm going to start by introducing what we'll be working with today. So from the front, I've got one beef cube, I've got some salt and some tomato paste. I've also got some minced ginger there, some red curry paste and some cherry tomatoes. I've got some coriander leaves there and some leek leaves here, some pork, some brown flour there for the ugali, some beautiful fresh spinach there. Here I also have some dried cranberries. I also got some plain yogurt. I've got 2 apples here. I've also got some mixed berries here. So these are just mixed frozen berries. You can find this in most of your supermarkets. And last but not least, some beautiful vegetable stock and some olive oil. So we're going to jump into a short break. If you're going to be taking notes with this particular recipe, please grab your pens and papers now. And when we come back, we're just going to dive in. So see you after the short break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are just joining us, we are basically bringing something really interesting to the table today. Being a new year and being the beginning of the year, it's the first month of the year, and most of you I know at home are very tight on your budgets. You're looking at something really easy to survive on this particular month. You're looking for something convenient enough that is that is less of a cost to you, but more of a convenience and healthy option. So for that, I'm going to be showing you how to make something very, very simple today. So without further ado, we're just going to start off with the pork. So I've got a nice big pan here that's already on the go. We're just going to put a bit of olive oil in there, about a tablespoon. And we're just gonna let that come to the, just heat up a little bit. And then I also have something also really interesting on the table for you guys today. We're actually going to be making a very, very beautiful detox smoothie. For that, I'm going to be including some ice cream in there, some plain yogurt, some cranberries, and some mixed berries, and also some green apples. And I hope you're all going to enjoy all that. So without further ado, we are going to start by browning off our meat. So I'm just going to let the pan smoke up. So as soon as you get to see the smoke, you know you're about ready to go. And all you're going to do now is drop the meat in there. Now, particularly for the meat, remember this is the first stage that actually really counts in your dish. This is actually when you get to color the dish. So what you're looking for is a very, very beautiful brown color from the meat, and this is particularly important because particularly for meat, especially if you're going to be making something similar to a stew and it's particularly dry, the best way to start is with the meat, because first of all you allow it to cook really well. It actually flavors the meat and just gives it a nice beautiful color, which actually just helps with the presentation of the dish. Right, so we're just going to allow that to continue for another few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to grab some water here. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to be heating up some water which we'll be using to make our ugali. So what we're going to do is in a separate pan, I'm just going to have that going for the meantime. So I'll leave that on some low heat. I particularly like to cover my pot every time I need to heat it a little faster. Remember, this actually helps you to boil your water a little faster, to bring it up to the boil. Right, so now that's just coloring up really, really well. Now to that, we're going to be incorporating some of the ingredients here as well. And to that, I'm just going to chop them up really quickly. So I'm just going to start with the celery leaves. Right, so basically what you're looking for is the leaves and not the stalks. And to that, I'm also going to be using some stalks from the coriander and just a bit of leaves as well. Right. Right, so we're just gonna give that pork another mix again. And as I said, it's very, very important that you continue stirring your meat while it's browning. This actually allows you to brown the meat evenly without having some sides color more than the others. Right, our meat is now beautifully browned. It's just about ready. And our pot is still on the go. We are just gonna give that a few more minutes. Right, so basically what you're looking for, I'll actually demonstrate that for you. What you're basically looking for is meat that's about medium cooked. So I'm just going to show you how to tell that. So if you can allow me to just cut that up and show it to you. As you can see, you do get that beautiful center that's pink, and you can see the outside is just about cooked. So this, we're basically looking to cook it to about medium, and we're gonna take it out and rest it. So that is actually just a particular stage that you should actually just pay attention to when cooking your meat. And then for those of you who might also want to look for tips, or you may not be sure about what to check for when you're actually browning your meat, I always insist, just grab your tongs. I always insist, always go for the biggest chunk of meat. Just grab any piece from your pot and just slice it. Once you look through, you should actually be able to tell. Right. Right, so our pork is now ready. I'm just going to turn down the heat. And what we are going to do is transfer this to a bowl. And what you're going to do is allow that to just rest for a few minutes. And then we're just going to come back to it and finish it off. Right, so we're just going to allow that to rest for a few minutes. Actually, it will give me a chance to switch my pots around. So I've got a pan here that we're actually going to be using to cook our kale in. So we're going to start off by allowing that to heat up. But before we do so, our water is now hot and just about ready. But very, very importantly, crucial that you don't have too much water in your pot at once. I particularly like to boil a little more than I need. And all I do is pour just about half a cup out. And this basically just allows me to have enough water in case my flour is too much. And of course, if my water is too much as well, I'll actually be able to control it at this stage. So very, very simple. Always just run your spoon through the water before you start your cooking. And remember, we're basically doing this in medium to low heat. Now all we are going to do is add our flour in small bits and just start stirring. So very, very important that you actually add your flour in small amounts. First of all, it's only safer to do so that you don't get these huge lumps in your pot. And second of all, it's just to make sure that you don't avoid any mistakes. For instance, adding too much at once and having a lump of flour in there that you can't actually be able to work on. So I'm just going to keep going at it. And as I said, ugali is very particular. It's one of the many dishes you can't really leave unattended. So it's actually very crucial that you always start and work all the way to the end. Right, so what should happen actually by this stage is you should actually start to get this particularly just thick lump in the middle of your saucepan. And this just tells you that it's almost about ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we basically just working it to make sure we don't have any bits of flour in there. Right, so we've got this beautiful lump, but clearly we all know that it's not cooked right through. So one particular thing to do, especially in that situation, I like to just add just a bit of water in there and then lower your heat and leave the pot covered for a little bit. The steam actually allows the ugali to cook right through to the center. And in the meantime, I have another pan here. Now to this, very, very simply, we're just gonna wilt some of that beautiful spinach. So just a generous dash of olive oil. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the spinach in chunks. So I'm just going to drop those in there. And all we are going to do is just allow that to wilt in its own, to wilt in the pan with the heat. And to that I will also be incorporating some ingredients that are sitting here. So first off, I'm going to start off by adding just a bit of some ground ginger, and then we're also gonna add about half a teaspoon of tomato paste. Also gonna add just a little bit of salt for seasoning, and then last but not least the cherry tomatoes. And all you want to do now is just saute that in high heat. So actually one particular reason I like to make spinach this way is because the chunks really make a difference when you're plating. We're going to add just a bit of olive oil for flavor. The beautiful thing about doing, why I like to do my spinach this way is for two reasons. It actually gives a visual impression on your plate, and it actually looks like it's actually much stress-free than you'd expect. So we're just gonna saute that just until the spinach starts to wilt, and then we're just gonna rest it and take it out of the heat. But very crucial that you move the spinach around to actually get all that tomato paste and all the minced ginger incorporated. And now to this end, as you can see now, the ugali is now beautifully soft and just about ready. Alright, so this is now done. So I'm just gonna turn off the heat. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to allow that to sit in the pot, and I'm just gonna have the lid just seated sideways. But remember to always leave a bit of a space to actually allow the ugali to cool off a little faster. And our spinach is also now cooked and ready. Right, so we're going to take that off the heat as well. So I'm just going to use a pair of tongs to do so. Right, so as you can see, the spinach just wilts really, really fast, gives it a bit of color as well. The olive oil, the flavors, you can actually be able to pick up the flavors right through. So our cherry tomatoes are now just done. We're just gonna take those out and set those aside as well. Right, so very, very simple. So the last step is basically now just combining all these ingredients with the pork. And for that, I'll just grab a fresh pan. So basically what you want to do now is just allow your pan to heat up just a little bit. Remember, as I said, we are going to incorporate all these ingredients into one dish. Our ugali is done, so we're just gonna complete this pork dish. And I'm also going to show you something really interesting with these beautiful ingredients to the end here. Right, so for the pork, you will require a few of these ingredients. I'm just going to separate them. All right, so to the pork, we're going to be incorporating some of these ingredients in front of me. And to that, I have some ginger, some no cube beef. I've also got some tomato paste and some red curry paste. And here I've also got some vegetable stock. So just gonna give that just a few minutes to heat up. I'm also gonna give that a generous drizzle of olive oil, about a tablespoon. All right, and all you want to do now is basically start by building your condiments. So basically start with your ginger. Right, so basically this step is just to infuse your oil. So very, very crucial that you give your oil a bit of a flavor. All right, very simple to that. We're gonna add our pork. And I always insist, don't discard the liquid that actually comes from the pork. Always just add it or add it in as well. There's quite a bit of flavor in there. We're just gonna give that a quick toss. And to that, I will add that coriander and the celery leaves. I'm gonna give that another toss again. So remember, this particular stage, most of your ingredients are already cooked. It's only a matter of incorporating them. Right, to that I will add about a half a teaspoon of red curry paste and 1 heaped teaspoon of tomato paste. And then just a bit of stock to deglaze the pan. Right, so I've used only about a third of a cup. So remember, as I said, always have enough to go around, but don't add everything at once. Remember, particularly with cooking, you always want to be very cautious when you're adding ingredients, because it is very, very simple to have too much and to ruin a dish. Right, so my red pepper paste and tomato paste have just now dissolved into the liquid, and that's basically the reason for the liquid. And to that, I'm just going to add about half a beef cube. And just give that a mix. So you can actually start to get some beautiful aromas coming through. You get this beautiful red color coming in. You also have your pork really starting to absorb the juices, and actually as it continues to cook down and thicken, it starts to coat the pork, and you actually start to see that beautiful pork color, and you actually start to see that beautiful characteristic of the meat. So to that I will add also a pinch of salt. Right, so basically what you want to do at this stage is just mix that around. Try and make sure to actually coat all the pork with that beautiful juice. And remember, since the pork had already been pre-cooked, it's only a matter of finishing the dish. So I'm going to add the cherry tomatoes and the spinach. And all you want to do, just mix that up together. And as you can see, a very, very, very beautiful color coming through. Right, so I'm just going to clear this quickly. And then we're just going to lower the heat on this side. Just allow it to really, really just cook on very, very low heat until it thickens out a little more. But in the meantime, we're going to turn that board around. And I'm actually going to show you a very beautiful smoothie that goes right along with this particular dish. I am going to also grab a bit of ice cream, which we're going to be using. And just going to give that one more toss. And now that's cooked and ready to go. So we're just going to let that rest on the side, and I'll direct your attention this way. So very crucial, you should have a blender for this particular process. Remember, you can't really be able to make a smoothie without one of these. If you do have a food processor, you can actually use it, but always make sure to take a bit of time to smell it and make sure it doesn't reek of garlic or ginger, because if it does, this taste and smell will carry through right into your drink. All right, so very, very simple. I'm going to add a bit of that ice cream. I'm just gonna grab a spoon quickly. So just gonna go in with about half a cup of vanilla ice cream. And particularly with ice cream, I like to use it frozen because it actually also cools the drink. So if you're looking at serving this on a nice warm day, this particularly will do well. Of course, if you're going to be serving this to your kids at dinner time, you don't want it to be too cold, so you can actually thaw your ice cream before blending it, or you could blend the juice and let it sit outside in the room temperature, and it will actually just thaw down and is ready to drink. So to that, we're gonna add also some apple. Just gonna quickly cube those. Right, simple as that. So we're gonna go in there with our apples. We're gonna also incorporate that beautiful natural yogurt. And last but not least, the mixture of berries that I mentioned. Remember, these are easy to find in your regular outlets or your supermarkets around. So these are particularly just a mix of mixed berries. So in here, I've got a bit of strawberries, if I can be able to just pick them out and show you. So if you can be able to just see them really well, as you can see, I've got one strawberry there. And then I've also got some beautiful black currants. So you should be able to tell those are small, tiny little black pods. And then you also have some raspberry, which basically looks very much like a strawberry, but you should be able to see more like really, really little bubbles all just clumped together. And yeah, I guess that is all that's in there, but you do get different varieties of berries in this particular packets. And what happens is, if you really want to know what's in each one, the details are always behind the packet. Just read it, it will actually tell you what you have in there, and if you don't need it, you could actually just buy them and keep them yourself. And it's actually very easy to make the same mixture. Remember, this is just berries that have been soaked in their own juice, so there's no added sugar there. It's very, very, very sugar free. So we're just going to add that in there. And last but not least, I've also got some beautiful dried cranberries, but I always insist, if you're going to be incorporating any dried fruit to anything that you're blending, always important to actually sponge them. And by sponging them, it actually means soak them in a bit of water, allow them just to hydrate a little bit, because what happens is, if you add dried fruit to your blender, you might actually damage your blade for one. Second of all, it's not very easy to actually break the membrane and the skin texture of some of the dried fruit, for instance dates. So it's only recommended to soak them for at least just under a minute. Just run some water over them, or you could just throw them onto a sieve, run it under cold tap water, and this should actually be ready to blend. So I'm just going to pour out the rest of the liquid. And now we have this beautiful, and as even from the press, you can be able to feel they do soften a little bit, and it makes it a little easier to blend. Right, so everything in there, lid on, and basically what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be pulsing this at high speed. So I'm just gonna get my attachment in. Should be about ready. Right, so just from the check, you can actually be able to feel the texture. It's nice and thick. You will actually feel a bit of like a crackle in there when you move your spoon around. Remember, the cranberries will actually blend really well, but they do give this after crunchiness to them. And it actually may be a good thing if you like your smoothie chunky and rough. But if you actually want to make it a little easier for the kids, you could always just run your mixture through a strainer. It should actually help you to take out all the fruit pulp and leave you with a very, very beautiful smooth liquid to consume. But particularly because we're going to be serving it this way, I'm just going to cover that and we're going to set it aside and we're going to just serve that in a few minutes. But before we do so, I'm going to go on a short break right now. We're going to clear up this dirty station and this big mess we have here. And when we come back, I'm going to show you some very, very simple steps of plating this particular dish, the ugali, the pork, and then we're also going to just finish off the berry smoothie and we can call it a day. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are with us just before we took a break, we were just finishing off this beautiful pork wet fry and now it's ready. So we're just gonna turn that down. We were also making some brown ugali, which is ready, which we're gonna serve in a little bit. But I will start off by just showing you something really simple. Just a very, very simple way to just garnish your smoothie. And for that, I'll be working with just a few slices of apple. Right, so basically that's exactly what, so I just took part of the apple and I got some 2 slices. And to that, I will just make some incisions like that. And then just for the smoothie, very, very important, just before serving, always just give it a shake or actually just stir it for a little bit. We're just gonna stir that just a little bit and then this is now ready to serve. All right, simple as that. And then for the garnish, just a very, very simple technique. Just some slice of apple on the side like that. And that should actually be able to just sit well on its own. Actually, just gonna make a fresh one. Right, so that should just sit well on the side like that. And then we're just gonna go ahead and plate the rest of the dish. So for that, I will require some spoons. So I'll start off with the ugali. So we're just gonna move that onto the plate. And then using a spoon, I'm just going to start off with the tomatoes. So I'm just gonna lay a few of those around the plate. Remember something also very, very important with plating your food, you should always make sure to create a bit of a balance, especially with your garnish. Always just give it a bit of creativity because it will actually boost your skills when your food gets to the table. So just cherry tomatoes around there. And then I would follow that off with some of that beautifully wilted spinach. So nice and easy technique of plating, but remember you're not limited to plate this way. You can be as creative as you please. Right, so just a bit of spinach there. And then just give your meat a bit of a mix just to make sure it doesn't look partly dry and partly moist. Always just remember to give it a mix before you plate. And then just your beautiful pork mignonettes all the way around. Simple as that. So, ladies and gentlemen, very, very simple ugali with pork wet fry with some cherry tomatoes and some spinach, and your apple, berry, and yogurt smoothie. I hope you've had fun today. I hope you've learned something new, and you're definitely looking forward to trying this on your own at home. I also recommend you check out our Facebook page, leave your comments, leave your inquiries, or any particular questions that you may have pertaining the show, and we'll be very, very glad to get back to you. From my end, it's been a pleasure being with you today. You have been watching Dinner Guide on BrandPlus TV. I do recommend that you check out our YouTube channel as well. Just have a look, and you should definitely be able to find a lot of relevant material. So from my end, I bid you farewell. I wish you a very, very prosperous new year. For those of you who are celebrating, enjoy the most of it. For those of you who are getting back to work, all the best with that. And for all the kids that are going back to school, you go have yourselves a beautiful first term. So from the studios and myself, have a lovely evening.